Hello, I'm Austin Wilson, Director of Investments at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management.
And I'm Josh Robb, Director of Wealth Management at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. And today we're going to be doing a look back of July and also a forward look of August to look at what's going on in the economy and around the world.
So, starting with markets, as we usually do, markets were mixed in July. S&P 500 was up 2.35%. The NASDAQ led the way, 4.59% gain, while the Dow was actually down 0.73%. Small and mid-cap stocks had modest gains. Developed international stocks were down 1.38%. Emerging market stocks were up 1.4%. And bonds were pretty much flat at about a 0.22% gain for the month. So like I said, mixed depending on what you're looking at. But the S&P 500 is the most popular index in the world. It was positive in the month of July. We also got jobs report. So it was really on August 1st. So like as early as it could come out, we got the jobs report looking back at July. It showed that U.S. payrolls grew by $73,000. And that is well below all estimates pretty much that were submitted for that,
just 73,000.
Just 73,000 jobs. But also May and June totals were revised down by a total of 258,000 jobs, which means those jobs were not added the prior months, which means the prior months reports that we had seen were actually substantially weaker that we saw there. The unemployment rate only rose slightly to 4.2% from 4.1%. So really all this is pointing to a cooling labor market, not necessarily one that is imminently recessionary, but definitely slowing down on the terms of our pace of hiring.
Yes. And so, 4.2, historically speaking,
still pretty low.
Still a good unemployment number, but you're seeing the weakness in some of that forward-looking data.
The growth just is definitely not there right now.
All right, so I'm going to take a break and do a Florida news story like we love to do. Seems like that's where all the good news comes from.
in Florida every month.
So this story is about a lady who was driving down the road and a chicken was crossing, right? Which brings you to a great joke.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
My kids hate it because anytime that happens in real life, I roll the window down and yell, ask the chicken, why? So maybe I finally get the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's right.
But for this case, we will never know because the lady did stop to let the chicken cross the road. The person behind this lady was a little impatient, was honking at her to move forward, decided to pass her, and in doing so, unfortunately hit the chicken.
Well, we'll never know. That's why we'll never know.
Why did the chicken cross the road? Not to get hit by the car, but that's what happened. And so this lady who had stopped was not too happy about that outcome. Proceeded to follow the car that hit the chicken, block her off in traffic, get out of the car, and try to open her car to proceed to have an argument with the accident with the chicken. And throughout this whole altercation, at some point, the lady also bear maced the person in the car.
I believe the police are involved.
Oh, yeah, she got arrested. She left. They tracked her down, arrested her for,
probably
things.
Assault.
So, crazy.
Save a chicken. Save a chicken, but hurt a person.
The intent was there, I think, to not run over an animal crossing the road.
But she'd be willing to bear mace for a fellow human.
So, anyway, Florida.
Only in Florida. Yeah. Only in Florida. Back in real news. That was real news.
Back in more normal news.
Important news. We did have some tariff news in the month of July to talk about. So the U.S. and China extended their tariff pause through late August, securing so we're really working on another 90-day moratorium. There's a lot of moving parts in terms of what has and hasn't been hashed out, but they were negotiating in Sweden.
Yeah.
So they were probably like, hey, let's go get some Swedish fish and talk about tariffs. And that's what they did. Also, in late July, the U.S. and the European Union struck a framework trade agreement in which most EU exports into the U.S. will face a 15% tariff. That's actually substantially less from the 30% that was threatened, more than the 10% that's across the board. But again, President Trump's trying to, balance trade is kind of one of his things he's going to do, and that's one way he thinks about doing that. When I heard about what the EU was talking about, we're like, hey, we'd rather have 15% that we know then maybe we'll have 10, and we don't really know, but let's just lock one in.
We talk about the market does not like uncertainty, and that's true globally. All the markets like to know the outcome. So,
Additionally, the EU is committed to purchasing $750 billion in U.S. energy and investing another $600 billion in the U.S., although there are still some higher tariffs on things like steel and aluminum, which the EU is a huge production component of. So, lots of news there in the tariff front in the month of July.
And that's not done yet. They're still negotiating. negotiating.
The world is still negotiating. Yes. Even as we sit here talking, there's discussions with India going on right now. So I guess the answer is we don't really know what and when this will all end, if it will ever end.
Yep.
But right now, there's a lot of moving parts, but there are some deals are getting done, and the markets are liking less uncertainty, which is a good thing. Just speaking of July, like I mentioned earlier, S&P was up with 2.5%, something like that. Positive month. Well, historically speaking, July's been a pretty positive month. On average, looking back historically. However, one thing that we would put a note of caution for investors getting their hopes really high is that August and September typically a little bit weaker in terms of what we call seasonality, which is weaker or stronger times of the year and things like that. So just keep your expectations dampened for August and July. That's often not the best time of the year, so may face some seasonal headwinds, so keep an eye out.
That's right. Well, just a reminder, everything we said today is not a recommendation. If you do have any questions about your portfolio or are interested in talking with us about investing, you can call us at 419-425-2400 or email us at hello@hccapital.com.
All right. Well, until next month, have a good one.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.